I think I was very lucky to have an upbringing where my parents gave me a sense of self, where I was given the ability to make my own choices. I think a lot of girls, especially in our country and many others, their ability to make choices is taken away from them. So I think it's very important for us to raise bold girls, for us to raise girls that push the envelope, for us to invest in the girls in our communities, in our countries, because once a girl stands on her own feet, she not just takes her family forward, she takes her community forward, which in part takes the country forward. Women are 50% of the world's population, and we have always had to take a step behind. And I think it is imperative, our prerogative, and our responsibility, men, women alike, parents, grandparents, and as communities and societies, to empower our children, our girls. And I am a result of a family that empowered me. From I was 4 years old, my father encouraged opinions where I used to sit with, my parents' friends. And my dad comes from a, middle class background. So does my mom, Ambala, conservative background. But he always asked for my opinion, and not in a flippant way, ki, "Achha, let's see what a 4-year-old has to say," but in a serious way. And that always made me feel like I'm important. And I told this story actually, I think I told it in my book, but it was really interesting. In military houses, they have nameplates outside your barracks where it says who is staying here. So my father was a major back then, and my mother was a captain. So the nameplate said Major Ashok Kumar Chopra and the captain Madhu Chopra. So I looked at it when it was being installed and it was hammered into our house, and I asked my father, I must have been in kindergarten, I think that time. So KG mein baith ke, I asked my father, I said, do I live in this house? And he said, yes, you do. So I said, then why is my name not up there? And my dad changed the nameplate. And it said Priyanka Mimi Chopra KGB, which was kindergarten B. That is what I mean. Giving me a sense of self, not making fun of me, not saying, "Dekha isne kya bola tha, see how funny that was." It was not funny. It came from a serious place for me, even at 5. And it was taken seriously by my parents. So that's what I mean. I think it is really, and as a new parent myself, and as many of you may be, and aspiring to be, I think it's very important for this generation to invest in our girls. It's so important. It's my 10th year. 10th year, I think, 2013, that I actually started looking for work in Hollywood. And after 10 years, you're seeing me do a show like this. So it takes a lot of perseverance, especially for immigrant actors that try to come into Hollywood and create a space for themselves, whether that's Indian or from any other country. Because when I started working, especially when you think about South Asians, I mean, there were like 4 or 5 in the room, and we all knew each other. And now, the quest for all of us, and that could be Mindy, Aziz, me, Carl Penn, few actors, was always to open the door and make more space for more like us. And when I got initial pushback in Hollywood, when I was, looking for the kind of work that I was used to, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I made my showreel. I walked in to meet, producers, filmmakers. I showed them the work that I had done in India. I'm not someone who walks around with the ego. I believe in hard work, and I think only your work can speak for itself. So I used to walk in, I took meetings, I did auditions, and I got smaller roles, and I did make them bigger and bigger and bigger, and slowly it took time to be able to get to this place. So I think that now that I feel like I have, my feet on solid ground, for the last 4 or 5 years, it really has been my quest to be able to create a lot more space for not just me, but people like me, actors, writers, directors, women behind the camera, in front of the camera. I have a first look deal with Amazon Prime, in which I'm producing a lot of TV and film for them, and most of them are hyper-specific stories about South Asia and our diaspora. And I feel so proud to be able to actually work with a streamer that is so interested in Indian stories, and and I signed this first look deal with them 4 years ago. It wasn't even now, but are so invested in telling culturally specific stories, and I love to be able to be at the forefront of that. I'm working with incredible writers, new writers, like I did with Purple Pebble in India when I started making regional movies. I only worked with first-time producers, first-time directors, first-time writers, and that somehow gives me a lot of joy. I never had anyone who did that for me or opened up doors for me when I joined the industry, and I want to be the shoulders for other people to jump off of because I have got this privileged responsibility or an opportunity. I came to terms with the byproduct of fame very early in my career. When I first joined the industry, I quickly realized that women specifically, but generally actors or talent in the industry, they are more written about, and this is a you thing, I mean, not you, but like a media thing. People like to write about everything else but their achievements. Media likes to write about how they fell on a stage, how they tripped up on a word, or anything and especially with women, at that time, we were mostly known by who's her boyfriend, who is she seeing, and so you had no identity. And that happened to me right at the beginning of my career. So I took a very decisive decision to keep my private life very private. I was ferociously private about it. I've never ever spoken about it. And it's something that I maintain even now because I'm a public figure, which means most of my life is for consumption. You can talk about me, I can't stop you. You can break bread with your grandparents and say, "Acha, usne to ye pehna tha, ya usne to ye kiya tha, uska to ye hua tha." Main to nahi rok sakti. I can't come into your houses and do that. So I have to make peace with the fact that that's going to happen. And I did that very early. And I started protecting myself by creating a really tight circle of people that I trust. My team, my family, my friends. And that's I can count 20 people in my life that have been consistent for years. And I recommend that to all young people. We live in the world of social media, which is kind of like being famous anyway. It's kind of the same thing. You are always looking for validation on the internet. We're all looking at comments. We're all looking at what did someone say about my picture. We're, fixing it. We're trying to find the best angle. And on social media, including me, we all put out the best versions of ourselves, right? I don't have that luxury as a public person. You can, literally lip read and, say that I said something and that'll become an article. And I have not said that at all. So I made peace with that very long time ago when I wrap work, whatever time that is at night. Nowadays it's usually 7 o'clock where, not today obviously, but it's usually 7 o'clock where I'm done with my day and I need to sit with my family and my friends and have time for myself to enrich my soul. I didn't do that in my 20s and I burnt myself on both sides. I went through a really, really dark phase where I was working too much. I didn't know how to emotionally feel. I was dealing with a lot of loss and grief and changes, and I just had to step back and take time out and, prioritize what was important. And I'm very clear about my priorities today, and I'm the most content and happy I've ever been. I think conversation is very important. I think we get caught up in pointing fingers, we get caught up in blame games, and cancel culture is so prevalent in our lives right now that people think that's the solution to everything, and I completely disagree. I think it is never one or two persons' faults. I think it is a society and it's a community that perpetuates that. And I think we need to start thinking about how we create opportunities or create a positive workspace, how we make space for others instead of actually, having a smaller and smaller table. How does your table become larger and larger? And how do you give more people a seat on that table? And I think maybe it was that experience for me, and it was in the industry. I have incredible friends and I've worked with the most amazing filmmakers in the industry, but it's certain cliques that always do that, and that'll happen in your profession, I'm sure in your profession, including mine. And I think the conversation around creating more space for people is very important in every job, and to create a good working environment, a positive working environment with transparency, with respect. And I think respect cannot be demanded, it has to be commanded. And I think when you walk into a room, you have to walk in with a sense of self. And that's very hard when you're young and when you're new and you're scared. It's really difficult to do. But I always encourage young people, especially young girls, that and young people in general, in the world of information today, where information is coming at you left, right, and center, whether it's misinformation, fake information, correct information or not, you're getting all kinds of information. You have to really take time from your spirit and in your heart to see what actually affects you, what really moves you, what you care about, what is important to you, what are your priorities. And I think the noise just kind of goes away. And when the noise kind of goes away, you find that self-confidence. And that's what I tried to do. Is I, of course, was intimidated. Of course, I was, weak in the knees and terrified. And, but what I did was I tried to cut the noise out, and I took my next step, and I took my next step. And I didn't think about the large picture. I didn't think about where I was going. But I knew if I take one step and I make it excellent, and I take next step and I make it excellent, hopefully my journey will be excellent. And here we are now. And I'm so proud, honestly, of the women of my generation, female actresses, directors, and a few amazing men who have taken it upon themselves to create more opportunities for women in the industry, in front of the camera and behind the camera. And I think that's very important. To be able to, we have Aparna sitting here who heads the India side of this incredible studio. She's taken hit after hit, but is still formidable and taking decisions and pulling up other women. Jen, who has set that top-down tone to be able to do that. I think that the more we push for women to be in positions of power, the more we'll see women in decision making, and then the more you'll see the impact, not just on women, but communities, on men, on women alike. Because women have been deprived of opportunity for such a long time, and especially positions of power, we have to work 4 times harder than men to be able to get to that position. We have to prove ourselves so much more than men to get to be able to be in a position of power. It's harder, when a woman is in charge, she's tough, there are words that are used for her which are derogatory, which when it comes to a man, we would say, wow, that's so impressive, he's so powerful. But with women, we get intimidated, and we have to change that. And that conversation needs to change. We have to normalize, wanting women in positions of power, respecting women in positions of power. I mean, we're from a country we're in India. We pray to goddesses, we believe in goddesses. Durga is prevalent to all of us, and who follow the belief system. And I think that we really have to go back and remind ourselves that women are what make our families. We are matriarchal, as well. We believe in the power of dadis and nannies and moms, and we always go back to that. Why can't we take that outside of our homes as well, and inside of our homes? Why can't the conversation about equity? And I see it happening already. I've seen it in so many homes. In my own home, when my mother was younger, my grandmother had 4 daughters, and my grandfather was very sure that they'll all be educated and they'll all have academic jobs, and they all do. And then they've changed the lives for their daughters, and then their daughters are changing the lives for their daughters. So and the family in general. So I think it's really important to have the conversation, and I think it's very important to raise our sons respecting our daughters. I think when women are surrounded by each other and we kind of support each other, there's a magic that comes out of it. Because for the longest time, women were pitted against each other, right? The most beautiful girl will get the job, so we're all trying to elbow each other out. And the most beautiful girl will get the boy, so we're all trying to push each other out. Actresses can't be friends. They have cat fights. Nobody talked about that with boys. Everyone was like, it's a bromance and they're friends. But no, the girls were always cat fights. Always. Huh. And that was perpetuated.
Yeah.
And you realize, and that's why I'm saying I'm so proud of my generation of women, not just in entertainment, but all of you who have created a sisterhood, who have said we're not going to perpetuate that anymore. It doesn't exist. We can be friends. We can support each other. In fact, we can do business together. We can make money together. We can create opportunities for other women together. We can be financially secure and secure other women. And it is so wonderful to be able to see that in this generation of women, because now I know that the next generation will not inherit that problem. But when you're young, you feel like one failure is the end of your life, or one breakup, or one friendship, or one fight. You feel like you can never come back from that. And I am a very intense person in general. I'm very sentimental, I'm emotional, so everything affects me. Energies affect me. If I've hurt someone, it affects me. If by deliberately or by mistake. So I think I used to really beat myself up when something went wrong or when I didn't get an opportunity. I was say, it's my fault. I must have done something wrong. And I would like to tell my younger 19, 20-year-old self that life is all hills and valleys. It's never going to be a smooth road. You will have up, you will have down, but when it's down, you will go up. So when you're up, be prepared for a down, and it's okay. Surround yourself by people that prop you up. Surround yourself by people who are genuinely happy for you. Not all the followers, not like the people who, you think are your friends that you may party with, but the ones that pick up your phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. The one when someone is sick in your family that will sit with you for hours, overnight. Those are the ones you collect. Those are the ones you remember, and those are the ones you keep for the rest of your life. That's the biggest riches in the world. And I had that when I was 20. I just ignored it because I thought that, my new life and this industry and my career was the most important thing. But family is, and the people around you are. And having a support system that makes you want to step forward every single day in this difficult ride called life, and that just makes it easier, because life is never going to be easy.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to have the right people in your life.
Yeah.
There's always a glass ceiling that is set up for women, and I just don't like a glass ceiling. My dad had told me this, and I know a lot of you know this because I've said this before, that glass ceilings are set for girls, for people, minorities, immigrants, whatever you want to say, women, there are glass ceilings set for everyone. I don't think she's capable of that. They're not going to do it. I don't think he can do this job because he's not confident enough. I don't think he dresses right, or I don't think she does this. People will have all kinds of opinions and all kinds of noise that will that'll turn your personality into what they think you are. So I think, yes, age, growing, maturity, maybe motherhood, maybe the fact that, I've fought battles, I've overcome them, some I've succumbed to, and I kind of reached a place of plateau. And I think getting to that place required a journey. But I think that, being kind to yourself, which I didn't do a lot of times, which I do now very much, is crucial. And I think that's kind of what helped me, is kind of being very kind to me. Don't stop working, but have a work-life balance. I think having a work-life balance is so crucial. And especially us, we're a country of so many people that we are constantly told to say that if, somebody else is going to take your spot in a second. But if you invest in yourself and you're really good at what you do, and you kind of find your rhythm and your strengths, focus on that, find a work-life balance, work becomes so much better. You're inspired, you're excited, and that's how I'm being kind to myself, is just by giving myself time to really find the reason why you go to work every day. Don't just be a zombie, don't be a robot, don't sit on your computer or in your cabin or in your job without feeling a sense of passion. And that was my greatest life lesson.